Since Bryar and I are both pre-order customers of the Marvel Avengers game, PlayStation 4, we actually got to play it last weekend from August 7th to the 9th. What we're going to do is kind of a preview. What's up, and welcome to Retcon Air, the Plotline Repair Podcast. As the name suggests, this is a podcast that takes a look at the plotlines of books, movies, video games, and even Broadway shows. What we do is we take a look at the story, break down how it was received by the community, how it impacted us, and pretty much everything that we need to know about it, really. And at the end, we always talk about what we might do differently and what the community might do differently with the story, just to make it jive a little bit better, flow a little better, hit a little bit harder. Now, today, however, we hop into the Retcon Studios laboratory to bring you something new. Since Bryar and I are both pre-order customers of the Marvel Avengers game, PlayStation 4, we actually got to play it last weekend from August 7th to the 9th. When the full game comes out later on, we'll actually do like a full breakdown. But right now, since we just got to play the beta, what we're going to do instead is kind of a preview situation. So the first beta went live last weekend of the 7th, between the 7th and the 9th of August. The weekend that this episode comes out on the 14th, the second beta for PlayStation users is open for everybody, pre-orders or not. It's for also Xbox and PC gamers that have pre-ordered it. And then next weekend is open for everybody. And so if you are interested in the game at all and you have a PlayStation, this is the weekend that you should try it out. And then Xbox and everybody else next weekend will work out for you. But I mean, it's free. There's literally nothing at stake there for you to try the game for free. And I mean, just teasers, like, you should at least try it.
Give it a shot. It's free.
It's so free.
And if you like it, pre-order it. If you don't, I mean, you're out nothing except for maybe a little bit of time.
You've played way worse games than this one. If that's the only recommendation I can give you, you've played way worse games. And so, again, since the game isn't out yet, this episode will be more of a preview of the Avengers. We'll do a bit of a deep dive into Crystal Dynamics. We'll discuss some of the community backlash over Spider-Man. We'll read a ton of listener feedback. There's so much feedback from the listener base about the beta. And then we'll end with one thing that surprised us and then one thing that we're hoping to see in the full version of the game. So allow me to, officially welcome my favorite Avenger, Bryar Fitch. Bryman, welcome to the show.
Hey, man. Good to be here again, like I am 80% of the time.
And, before we officially kick off, can you go ahead and, tap my favorite button?
What button's that?
It's over your shoulder and connected to the Infinity Gauntlet.
I absolutely can.
Nice. So I'm just excited that that's in the shot. And so initially he was going to just press that button every once in a while. I don't think he'll get to that, but hey, it's fine.
Full disclosure, I was looking across my computer screen and all the tabs I have open. I'm like, what button should I be hitting?
There are literally nothing but buttons in front of me. All right, so
I get yelled at when I touch buttons.
Well, I appreciate that you touched the one that you touched. But going back to the game, I can't wait to break down this game with you. I'm really excited about talking about the beta overall. But since we're going to do a preview of a beta of a game that we're playing, I'm going to skip the armory. We're going to skip the writer's room and go straight into impressions. So let's zoom all the way back to when the Avengers game was kind of first announced. And I want to go into what you first thought about it. Now, and I'm talking about that first initial trailer where it really wasn't any gameplay, it wasn't anything else. It was just some narration over Avengers equipment.
Honestly, didn't really care all that much.
Okay.
We're both big Marvel fans, love the Avengers and everything, but I think it kind of seemed a little too ambitious, just too much. It's all the Avengers, it's this whole thing, it's going to be this great story, and you can play as anyone, there's all this stuff going on. I'm like, all right, let's dial it back a little bit. I don't see you hitting this one out of the park like you think you're going to. Then I'm pretty much, I just love seeing you suffer anyways, so part of me wanted it to be garbage because of how absolutely excited you were for it. I did not want it to be good.
That's a good point. I kind of I've been having so much fun talking about this game for the last couple of weeks that I completely forgot that up until this point you've been flaming me nonstop since it came out. And that's fine. I think that more speaks to my staying power of passion for all things of Marvel. Because, yeah, you're not wrong. The second that the game was teased, I was really excited about it. There was that initial shock. But, yeah, no matter where I talked about this game, everybody was just so hooked on how it looked. But then you went and you took it a step further and really just wanted me to just take hold of the fact that there was no way this game was going to be fun and that I would be let down. And you were just really adamant about that, man.
That's
Thank
all I
you.
wanted. I thrive off of your pain.
That's fine. You know what? You don't get to pick how you contribute to society. You just contribute how you contribute, you know?
Yeah, I full disclosure shit on this game a lot just because I didn't think it was gonna be great. I didn't think it was going to pan out
Yeah.
anywhere near as well as it did. Like I will be the first to admit I was wrong. This game turned out great, but up until and even right up until we started playing the beta, I was not in on this at all. Like I pre-ordered it just so I could play the early beta with you because I knew no matter what, hated it or not, I was still going to play it with you. So I'm like, all right, I'll pre-order it. We'll do the beta. And like right up until that first day, we popped that, I hit the start button, started playing it. I still was like, no, this game's going to be garbage, just to spite you.
And I think that's fair. And I bet you a lot of people felt like that because like the initial trailer, like the kind of teaser with the narration and like the shield and the hammer and stuff like that, and like the reassemble and stuff like that. That really got me interested in like, oh shit, we're gonna get something real because I've played the crap out of like DC Universe Online. My daughter and I, Charlie, play the hell out of Disney Infinity. We still collect characters like behind me, over my shoulder, over this way. I mean, the ones that I laid out with a specific reason I'll go into later on. But I'm fully invested in playing like Marvel games in any capacity. We've played the crap out of like all of the like Lego Avengers games and like everything that's Avengers related. I've played in some form, and like it wasn't until PlayStation 3 that we got like a decent Captain America game. So like the concept of this, I've always been jacked up about because like we both played, and you specifically platinum. We both platinumed the Marvel PlayStation 4 game, and that was just such a capstone piece of how great of a game they could make on PlayStation 4 on its own merit. But then how much fun or how much more fun it could be like as a superhero in that world. And I think that Spider-Man game really just blew everybody's expectations away. So like I was really sailing on the hope that like if they could get it right with the Spider-Man game, that with the power of Square Enix, I mean, there's no reason that they shouldn't be able to do that. And then Crystal Dynamics is pretty phenomenal as well. So it seemed like everything was going the right way. But like I will admit, like everybody, that when I first saw the character demos, that initial scene of A-Day where it's all of the Avengers and they're just kind of like standing, shoulder to shoulder, and they just look so different than what we'd been trained to see.
No.
I felt like everybody felt like I felt like they completely missed the mark. I felt like they completely misunderstood like what our expectations were for what they look like. And I think we all felt like that, and I think that we had the right to feel that way, just because specifically for no other reason than we just came off of Endgame. We had just finished this entire over 20 plus movie journey with what Marvel said, these are the characters that we want you to know. And then we went straight from that to like this very different version from Crystal Dynamics. And I think they got to just own the fact that like that was a normal thing. That doesn't look at all like Chris Evans. That doesn't look at all like Scarlett Johansson. That doesn't look at all like Robert Downey Jr. Like they look so different. And like I think there was like, well, like Spider-Man Peter Parker looked totally different than like Tom Holland. And like I totally get that, but that doesn't change the fact that for the last decade we were completely brand coached on what these people look like. And then when we got the game trailer, it just didn't look like that. So,
well, and to the Spider-Man point, we've had 3 different Spider-Man, so like we're used to Spider-Man not looking the same in any media source.
Yeah.
So like that one, I didn't care that Peter Parker in the PS4 Spider-Man didn't look like Tom Holland. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm used to them not matching up. And then to your point of like you get here now, all the people we were used to playing these roles, now in this game look nothing like it, and it was a bit of shell shock. I mean,
and now I legitimately feel very differently now, and not just because of the beta, but because of how much time I've spent since that first initial like sticker shock or whatever you want to call it. There's been like multiple war tables, and then we actually got to spend, way more hours than I thought we were going to spend in just a beta. Like the fact that it was just a beta and we spent that much time in it really speaks to how much fun it was to play with you in that world. I think the more time I spent with like Crystal Dynamics version of the Avengers, the more I was like, okay, yeah, so like the MCU is very much its own thing. The game universe is very much its own thing, and that is an okay thing. But like when that first trailer broke, I wasn't there yet. I wasn't ready because I had just spent all my time, energy, and resources focusing on the Avengers MCU. Now I'm to a point where I'm like, okay, now I can go ahead and open myself up to something new. There's like a huge lull in the movies. We've got a ton of time here. Like this is the perfect time for this game to come out. So,
and like to
You
for
go.
that too, I think I have a hard time with that as well, like acknowledging the different universes. Like,
Yeah.
I touched on it a lot on like our very first episode when we did Endgame. Like all the things I wanted different. Or no, I'm sorry, when we did Infinity. Was it Infinity War or was it Endgame specifically? I don't
In game
remember.
is what we did. Yeah.
Yeah. So I touched a lot on like all the retcons I had technically happened in this comic universe, and I have to be okay with the fact that this is the cinematic universe. So like I get that. I still struggle with that. I keep, I want all the characters to look the same, but this is the video game universe versus the cinematic. Like I have to be okay with the fact they look different.
And that's not atypical. That's why the color palette of Iron Man is exactly what it is. The Iron Man armor is exactly what it is in the comics, is exactly what it is in the movies, is exactly what it is in the game, because you can't get those colors wrong. So there's definitely a precedence for how these things are supposed to look. That's how brands work. You walk into a McDonald's in the state that you walk into, and it's going to look the same. It's going to smell the same. The stupid burgers are supposed to taste the same. They want you to have that brand consistency. So I just didn't understand the initial like surprise of like, well, this is clearly a different thing. Like, I know, I totally understand that, but like, to zoom out and look at the big picture of where all the fans were at that time when that trailer came out, like you can totally see why everybody recoiled. And then get now that, okay, we've spent enough time with it now that like we're totally cool. Let's see what you got now. And I think that's the exciting thing about these betas. Now it's like, all right, you know, we got through the way that they looked, we got through everything else, and now you can tell us exactly this is what we made. Now you can make your opinion, you know, base it off this, not just what you think about that. And that's great. And that's really exciting. And that's why I'm really excited to talk about this preview with Marvel's Avengers with you.
Sure. And you know what? The beta was a nice place to let us warm up to the idea that these people's faces look different. All right. So going off of character design, can we dive into the whole Spider-Man fiasco that's going on?
Of course, because I really, really, really want to know your take on it, especially since you, to me, primarily, like you represent like the Xbox voice, I think, on this team. And so like from that standpoint, I do have specific questions about that for you.
All right. Well, I look forward to them. So to get us all up on the same page and get us all up to speed, as some of you may or may not know, news has recently broke that Spider-Man would be the second Avenger joining the team that's built by Crystal Dynamics, the first one being Hawkeye, which I'm really excited for Hawkeye now.
Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah.
Which I mean, kind of.
Yeah.
So, you know what? Take that kind of out of there, because like I was trying to like ad lib this line, and it just, I don't know, it doesn't work.
Okay.
So just go from your hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
So while they're definitely bringing these two characters into the universe, only PlayStation's going to get Spider-Man.
So not PC or Xbox, right? It's only going to be on PlayStation.
Correct. Only PlayStation.
Okay. So obviously I have my own assessment since I'm more PlayStation-y, but like how does that first initial thing grab you?
I got it on PlayStation to play with you because you don't own an Xbox. And I could very much tell that this was going to be a game that like I would have more fun playing with someone than by myself, or just like with randos online.
That's a lot of feedback that I saw of just people saying like just with AI alone isn't the same at all as playing with like people. So for sure.
So I got on a PS4, so like I'm kind of middle of the road here. It sucks that, you know, people on Xbox don't get to play as Spider-Man, but to me it made sense for him to be a PS4 exclusive because the last Spider-Man game, which was phenomenal as we've talked about at length.
Oh yeah.
Previous episode, it was a PS4 exclusive. So to me it made sense for that to carry through to this game. I honestly didn't even really question it. It was more just well, that sucks for everyone who's not playing on PlayStation.
Good.
I was just gonna say, so like, but you know, what's your opinion on it?
Yeah, and so exactly like you said, and bias up front, like I'm a PlayStation guy. Like I have the PlayStation 1, 2, and 4, well, the Pro actually over there. I had the collector's edition Batman version of the 4, and then I traded that in for the Pro when I got a 4K TV. I had a 3, but it died on me, but I've always invested in that thing. So I've never questioned like the PlayStation Network. So to me, I had access to Spider-Man. I will have access to Spider-Man on the PlayStation 5. I'm just so used to having Sony, you know, be part of this. And then in another podcast I was listening to called Sacred Symbols, which is done by Colin Moriarty, who was from Kind of Funny and IGN. He's like a throwback guy from the gaming industry. And Chris Raygun is on that as well. They were saying that Sony picked up that license in 1985, the film rights to Spider-Man. So Sony has literally, that's why they're constantly like making stuff and like doing reboots and like kind of doing all this other stuff with like the film version, but it's always tied to Sony because Sony owns those licenses and that's what the requirement is. So to me, it doesn't really surprise me as much now, like actually after knowing that context, like, oh, of course, like they're going to try to make you think that, you know, Sony is synonymous with Spider-Man. They want that brand identity to work because we keep on talking about brand identity, what we saw from the MCU versus what we saw in the characters. Sony knows that and understands that. So when they think Spider-Man, they want you to think Sony. So on Sony PlayStation, they want you to have PlayStation, you know, that's Spider-Man PlayStation 4. The launch title for PlayStation 5 is Spider-Man, Sony PlayStation. So to me, it wasn't a stretch at all for them to go, oh, so we have this new Avengers game. How are we going to use Spider-Man into this? And so it's weird because there was so much anger and outrage and like, I don't really think it was kind of the people that developed the game's fault. I just think somebody that was high on the totem pole at Sony talked to somebody that was high on the totem pole at, you know, Crystal Dynamics and said like, hey man, like you're going to put Spider-Man in here. It's going to be exclusive. And somebody said yes, or somebody wasn't allowed to say no. I don't know what the context was, but like it doesn't surprise me.
Even to go with that though, it's like, hey, you can have Spider-Man, but it's PS4 exclusive, or you don't get him.
Yeah.
Well then, yeah, I'll take him and only put on PS4. At least that way he can be in here in some capacity.
Yeah. And it's weird. Like I understand it. I just don't think that it's fair. But on the flip side, everybody does it. So you look at Nintendo, you've got Mario and Zelda, right? You look at Xbox, you've got Marcus Phoenix and Master Chief.
Hell yeah.
And then you look at PlayStation, and you have like Kratos and Nathan Drake. So it's like everybody does this anyway. Yeah. But this is like the first time like Sony as a brand is like getting involved, but like it's inconsistent. So on the one hand, you have Spider-Man on PlayStation 4, Miles Morales on PlayStation 5, Spider-Man only in the Sony version of the Avengers game. But in addition to that, you have Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 or something on the Nintendo Switch where Spider-Man is in. You have all these mobile games where Spider-Man is in. So it's still even inconsistent in the gaming universe. So I don't know. It's weird. So it's like they piss everybody off for nothing.
I think to go off that though, like no one cares about mobile games. They're whatever. Like
there are
things you play on your phone to kill time while you're waiting on your your doctor appointment.
While you're pooping, you play
especially while you're pooping
for sure.
So I'm not even really going to like acknowledge those in this argument. And then with a Switch, it's Nintendo. I don't know who they had to talk to at Sony to get them to. Marvel Ultimate Alliance, Spider-Man's always been in it, correct?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's like a Civil War story, and like that's the whole thing. It's around Spider-Man.
So like I'm coughing. I'm not super familiar with that story because I've never played those games.
Okay.
But I imagine the only reason he's in it is because it's a bundle deal. It's you take Marvel Ultimate Alliance and Spider-Man just happens to be there.
Yeah.
I think that's legit the only reason he's on a Nintendo product.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I don't know. It is unfortunate for people playing Xbox and PC, but I mean, I'm sure down the road, I wouldn't be surprised if another character gets made exclusively for Xbox.
I agree, and I think that they should. And like it'll crush my soul if it's somebody like Blade and like Blade goes to PC or something. But like, how excited would you be, you know, as an Xbox person, if like Adam Warlock came to the Xbox? Now, like specifically, that kind of screws you over because you have the PlayStation version. But you know, bigger question: would that be enough of a interest for you to switch over and buy the Xbox version?
No. It's like I play my PlayStation more because we play a lot of games together, but I'll always be an Xbox guy just because like that was, you know, we've talked about it before, that was the system that introduced me to a lot of my favorite games.
Yeah.
That being said, I love Adam Warlock's character. I went on about him a lot in the Endgame episode. And I'm a huge Doctor Strange fan as well. If they came and told me they were going to put those two characters in the Xbox exclusive version, I still don't know that that'd be enough to make me buy it because I know no one on Xbox who's getting this game who gives any shits about this game. So it would be me buying this game to play those characters by myself or with random people online versus I don't get to play those characters, but at least, you know, we get to bro chill on game. So I expect them to make an Xbox exclusive character just to kind of balance it out. I hope they don't, it is what it is, though.
Yeah, and I would hope it was more of like a timed exclusive where, PlayStation gets Spider-Man first, but ultimately fucking everybody gets them. And then maybe Adam Warlock comes to Xbox first, but then ultimately everybody gets them. I get brand protection and exclusivity. Like, I understand it because, like I said earlier, everybody does it. But with something like this that's so universal, like, don't just like lock down a character to one console. I just don't. It feels wrong as a
Yeah.
gamer. Like, it feels wrong. There's something about it that just doesn't feel right, and I just that's why I don't like it.
I'm okay with console exclusive games, but yeah, console exclusive characters kind of seems shitty.
Yeah. Well, enough about all that. So, completely understandably, a lot of community freaking out about like the first impressions of like when they saw him for the first time, and then like a lot more feedback about, the Spider-Man thing and like how it played for everybody. And like those are both really rational pieces of feedback that I think future, game developers should really consider when they're thinking about how they're going to go to market, because like that didn't look well for them. It really did. I can't tell you how many things, and I'm sure it's just jawing, but people that were writing like, I got an Xbox, I'm not going to get this thing. I'm not, whatever. I think we're going to be blown away by the numbers that this thing sells like that first week of September. I think no matter what you say, you're going to get this game because it's an Avengers game, and everybody legitimately, the same fan base that screamed and cried when Captain America picked up Thor's hammer, that same fan base is exactly who we're going to be playing with this weekend in the beta.
Sure.
Like, it is the same audience. So anyway.
Well, and like before we even started tonight, we were discussing like, looking for reviews and whatnot, and neither one of us were able to find like a legitimate negative review. They were all of them were long-winded.
Yeah.
But they were either 100% for the game or, yeah, it was okay. Like, I don't hate it, but like, I don't love it. Like, it was like a middle of the road kind of review. So like, I genuinely think a lot of people who are naysaying are doing it just because they can.
Yeah, and we'll get to the community feedback later on, and there's a person specifically who speaks to how frustrating he was with like the negative review bombing that's been happening. And I think on both sides of the fence, you shouldn't be allowed to rate or review a game that's not out yet. You can do that right now on PlayStation, and it really, really bugs me. But then on the flip side of that, you shouldn't negatively blast a game that's not out yet. You shouldn't be able to review or respond to something that you haven't played in its entirety. That's insane. That's like eating just the bread at the table, not trying any of the entrees, and then leaving and saying the food was disgusting. Like, that's what's happening, and I don't understand why.
Carry on.
So, let's go into first impressions. So, what did you think when you first fired up Marvel's Avengers?
Once I actually like got into the game, started playing it, I loved it. Honestly, like, there was a little bit of cutscenes at the beginning, but once you actually got into the gameplay, like, your first actual dip into this game was Thor on the bridge, which, right, I am right with that, right? It was the first thing was Thor, and then it went to Iron Man.
Thor, Iron Man, and then you kind of bounce around from there. Yeah.
Which, like, we talked about this a lot. Like, I'm super pumped to play Thor. I talk about him throughout the rest of this episode. I will mention how excited I am to play as Thor. But yeah, I loved it. It was great. During the beta, I pretty much mained the Hulk just because I had so much fun playing as the Hulk, which is funny because at first didn't care for him, then just kind of like, we'll just mess around a little bit more, and just immediately fell in love with him. Just forced my way through via brute force. And just all like his different combos, his different moves, the constant jump up and slam the ground, and then throw a temper tantrum where I just keep punching the ground and send shockwave. I loved it. I loved it so much. It was great.
So good. And so fun. And like, I didn't really play Hulk all that much at all. I just thought he was just too clunky. But I had so much fun just watching you. Just like, I could hear you laugh as you were just fucking dive bombing just groups of people. And like, that was the thing. Like, it was so much fun to play as we'll get into. But then it was also fun to just watch other people have so much fun, like living out like their stupid childhood fantasies of being the Hulk, being Iron Man, being, there's so much potential there for like, again, the same group of people that cried when, Tony Stark, said, or Pepper said to Tony, now you can rest or whatever. Like, that same community
R.I.P.
should and must play this game because it's right there. Like, it's exactly what you wanted.
For sure. Yeah. So played Hulk, loved playing as Hulk. Flying as Iron Man was cool.
Yeah.
So like I think I got the hang of it faster than you did, but that's
Yep.
also just because like I enjoy like flight simulator based games and like the controls were similar. It's like it was close enough that I could just jump in and take off and I was fine.
I hated flying in the H.A.R.M rooms because it was too compact.
Yeah.
When we were in big open world, I really valued having the ability to fly because with Widow and Kamala, you have to like swing off shit. It's very Spider-Man or whatever else, and it's just kind of if you're not dialed in specifically to how it works, then like you're gonna hate it. But then with Iron Man, you're just soaring, and it's just so smooth. And like with one of the missions, I don't want to go into spoilery territory, but there's this boss fight, and like it's just so convenient to have Iron Man in that thing just because of your mobility. So you 100% got it faster than I did. But once I got it, I really did enjoy it. It handles very well.
Well, it was the easiest form of travel too, because like so you talked about Widow and Kamala, but like with Hulk, you had first of all, one of the comments I'd read, I think when I was just looking up reviews and myself, was someone had mentioned that his sprint didn't seem fast enough, which I completely agree with.
Yeah.
It's the Hulk. That dude can book it. And like his sprint felt like what you would normally think his jog would be.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
But his like lunging, like hopping thing that he did was great. But if you didn't, no matter what, as long as you hit the X button to keep jumping, you would jump and keep bunny hopping. But to really get the distance and speed, you had to time that so perfectly every time consistently. It was hard to get the hang of it. And then you get Iron Man who just flies off. It's totally fine.
And that's the cool thing about this game is like the levels of depth in everything, in the mobility. And so I'm complaining about the clunkiness of the mobility because I suck at using it. A lot of people were saying like this game is butt mashy because they're not taking the time to pace out and time their attacks. The combat system and the traversal system is fantastic if you like pay attention and take the time to learn that system. And so far, since it's a beta, we're just fucking butt mashing away and we're just like really
100%.
Yeah.
Everything about my Hulk character was spec'd out to just brute force it so that I could like I did have moments where I would specifically do the combos because they made more sense. And I had other times where I would just button mash my way through the entire army of little a-hole robots that are running at me because I can do that. And like I had like Hulk's rage thing spec'd out, so like I got so much health back while using it. I could just brute force my way through and button mash, and that's how I wanted to play. So that's how I played.
Absolutely.
It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then just kind of round out the rest of my stuff. I didn't really play a whole lot as Black Widow because once you found out how much you loved her combat system, I didn't get to play her anymore.
Sorry. God, so much fun. But yeah, so this weekend, whenever you want to play as Widow, dude, she's so much fun. Have at it.
The little bit I did play as her though was awesome. It was very, very fluid. Like I understand why you like her combat so much.
Yeah,
it works really well. And then like her having guns didn't feel overpowered. It just kind of flowed with everything else. Once then you go with that. Once I kind of got Iron Man dialed in, so I got you have his repulsor blast, and I got lasers and rockets. So I was constantly throwing those off. Those was fun. The little bit I got to play as Cap was pretty cool. You barely got to play as him, but you can tell like his combat system. So him and Black Widow effectively are the same in like the bare bones structure, but like you can tell their combat system's so much more different. Whereas Widow is more precise and tactical. Like I very much feel like Cap is just going to be just bare knuckle brawl it out because I mean that's kind of what he is.
I agree. That's a good point now that you say it. So I think exactly how you explain it. She can jump into a group of like 5 guys and precisely attack each one of them. Cap can go into a group of more than that because some of his attacks are like area, kind of effect. He can jump and throw his shield at like a bunch of different people. He can jump in the air and slam a shield and, blow everybody back at the same time. At its core, like they move the same, they kind of fight the same, but I think the power levels are completely different in a way that makes sense. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
And even like there was special, like Widow's is, more of a tactical, her and everyone around her, all of her allies, other players include turn invisible, whereas Caps wasn't it called like the Brooklyn Brawler or something like that, where he just starts decking people. So like I'm here for it. Like even those two characters who are very similar still play so differently, and it's awesome.
Yeah, it really is.
The little bit I played as Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, was pretty cool. I really like her combat. I didn't play her a whole lot during like once we got out of the story, but her combat was pretty cool. Her mobility was pretty fluid. I liked it. I like her special when she just stretched herself out and is massive. One of the I don't want to call it a boss fight, but it was just like one of the giant spider robots. I straight up gave it the people's elbow, which I'm here for. It was ridiculous, and I loved it. But yeah, it was all in all, I had a great time. First impression was I loved it. I can't wait to play for the launch so I can play as Thor more.
Mhm.
I freaking love the hammer combat. I'll touch on that more later, but it was great. It exceeded all of my expectations.
Oh yeah, man,
it was
that's awesome.
So much better than I thought it would be, and I had to admit that I was wrong. You were right. I'll never say it again.
You know, guys, this actually isn't even a real episode of Retcon Air. The only reason that I wanted to record this was to get to this point. So that's it for us. My name is Devon. Thank you for joining us. We do full episodes on the first of. No, I'm legitimately relieved that you actually tried it and that you liked it. Like that. Like I'll say it later on, but like this game had a very profound impact on a lot of people that I talked to, and that would have sucked to find out that you just didn't like it at all. Like that would have been such unfortunate, because I never played video games with you ever again. You would have just been on Overwatch, and I would have been like, oh yeah, I remember when I used to play Overwatch. It's cool. Yeah. Cute.
Yeah, no, I owed you one. You were right, and I was wrong because I got one from I think Batman episode.
Yeah.
So there's the one.
They're talking about gameplay. It's true. So as long, it's every 8 months, one of us will kind of move the pendulum one way or the other, and I'm fine.
You're
with
up next.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
But yeah, it was great. I loved it.
Cool. For me, on a communication side, just because I was so dialed into like the Twitter community and the Facebook community, like talking about the game, this beta wasn't explained very well at all in terms of access for pre-order users, depending on if they got a digital version or a retail version, and then how access worked on the day, how the pre-install, worked on the day. There was such a difference in the way that people got their beta access codes or were able to install that beta overall, that there was just so much confusion and frustration. I specifically spoke to like somebody from Sony support. I know a lot of other people were just reaching out however they could. And like that's like the biggest area of opportunity, I think, for Sony is just doing a better job of communicating what's happening with their different properties. Because I'm sure Crystal Dynamics, like they've been doing these awesome War Table events. They have marketing capabilities for sure. But I think that Sony has such a grip on like, look, we've got, I'm sure that your little Avengers game is dope, but look at all these other games that we have, So it's like Fall Guys just came out and all this other stuff. So like how do you, have the algorithm of like what gets promoted? And I totally understand that. But there was so much frustration with people just trying to understand how to try out the game that I think it turned a lot of people off. I think, eventually when it was live and clearly people were seeing like demos and gameplays and stuff like that, then they went and got it. But there was just so much frustration that could have been completely absolved by just communicating better. And like that was just really unfortunate to me, I thought.
Well, even the way the PlayStation Store had it set up was hella confusing because so I remember you messaged me like, hey, it goes live on this day roughly around this time. So I went on the store at that day at that time, and on one of the home screens of the store, it specifically said Avengers beta. So you click on it and it had the 3 game digital download game options of like the standard, the deluxe, the digital deluxe. So like the way it was set up was like you just went to whichever one you had pre-ordered, selected that, and then from there you should be able to do the beta. But that's not how it worked. Like you went and selected the one you pre-ordered, and that's it. Like it's just the info page for that game and a countdown clock for when the full game release launches. There was nothing for the beta. So then I think you dug in a little bit more and found out that like the store itself actually refreshes like a couple hours later.
And I literally only know that because of Fall Guys. Like, because the same thing happened. Everybody was freaking out like, we're getting Fall Guys for free. And like, oh my God. And like, it's not in the store and Call of Duty is. And like, what the fuck? And what it turned out is like in Eastern time, for whatever reason, 11 a.m. Eastern time is when the store flips over and resets. So my theory was, well, if that's when they hit the reset button because they're based in California and it's 8 a.m. there and that's when they turn it on for the day and like it fires up the network, then yeah, they don't want to make sense that would happen. But that wasn't explained. Somebody knows when that stuff goes live and that's not being communicated, and it doesn't make sense for a company that size. Like this is unnecessary customer frustration that is very fixable, in my opinion.
Yeah, man, for sure.
For sure. So anyway, like, once I finally got into the, it sucked trying to get access to it, all the frustration that went along with it. But once I got to play the beta, like I was completely blown away. Like finally getting to play the 8A scenario that we'd seen so many times in demos, playing as Thor and seeing how it all handled, and being able to just throw your hammer and just leave it there and then just bare knuckle box people and then call it back. And like it
Yeah.
was just so well done. And then seeing how, at first it was really rough to play as Iron Man because I just didn't understand the mechanics or the flow or the weights or anything like that.
It just kind of threw you into that too. It
Yeah.
really didn't give you like time to figure it out. It was like you're in the shit now.
And
So
you're in the shit now, but you're on rails now. So you can't even
yeah.
really fully use your own capabilities. You're very much like put in this funnel, which sucks.
Yeah.
But then to get into play as Captain America, you're like, fuck, this game could have just been a Captain America game, and I would have been here for it. And then I played most of the Taskmaster boss battle, and then my daughter ended up finishing it for me because I had to go upstairs and do something. So I came downstairs to the Taskmaster just on his knees. I was like, oh, good job, kid. So like even kids, really enjoy playing this game. So, but I love it. I was completely blown away. Kamala, her fluidity and like kind of like her rubberness, like if you time it right, you're just kind of like flipping around and stuff, and it was just so much fun to throw her around as a character. The combat style of Black Widow and Captain America speaks to more of what I'm interested in, but I had so much fun playing as Kamala. I had, it wasn't bad playing as Hulk, it wasn't bad playing as Iron Man, but I just had the most fun playing as Black Widow and Captain America. So, but it was so fun. So, even though some of the smaller missions could be beaten pretty quickly, like I don't know what the differences of the names are. Like the To Tame a Titan and like Snowy Tundra versus like the small ones.
The
What's
small ones are drop zones, if I remember correctly.
Okay, so that makes sense. So the drop zones are done in like 5-10 minutes.
Yeah,
Really?
like you could literally sprint straight to the end.
Yeah.
If you take your time, yeah, like 15 minutes. But if you just get straight to it, under 10.
And so my concern is that the volume has got to be big and unique and different. So, we have this war table mission, you and I unlocked that secret Snowy Tundra mission, which is in Russia. So everything else is in the States. And then you have this one, you rotate the entire map around to Russia. That tells me that there should be, regions all over this entire thing. Like that thing better be packed, because if it's not, this game is going to fall apart pretty quickly because of the repetition. 5 to 10 minutes is not enough to sustain us. Those bigger missions, maybe an hour, you think?
Yeah, in the one war table we watched, they had talked about some of them, I'm sure, like, the beta does not have any of them, but some of them can take upwards of 2 hours if you go for the full clear of everything that raid or whatever it is they're calling it has to offer. They did say, like, if you're just kind of, you have the ability just to sprint to the end of those as well, just go straight to the objective, and you're looking about, I think, about like 20 to 30 minutes, something like that.
Well, that's the thing. I think with some games you grind it out because you want to get through it. This is a game that I just really enjoy playing the characters that I'm playing as. So it's like, yeah, I want to work my way through it if you and I are pressed for time. But like the 2 hour to clear it because you and I are looking for secret bunker locations, or we're trying to figure out where the stupid trigger button is to shoot so we can get in this little vault and see what's inside. Like, to me, that's where most of the appeal is of this game, is just exploring it with you as whatever characters were running it at that time. And then, having a couple of our friends who maybe pick it up, maybe don't at some point joining us. Like, there's so much potential for having fun, like with the team, that I think that really speaks to what the potential is. So I don't know. I'm excited. I'm hopeful for it anyway.
And I like that, like, they have the drop zone missions and how they are actually shorter, because like it's realistically, to me, that's just there for like, so we're trying to like, rank up a piece of gear we can just grind out like 10 drop zone missions in like a half an hour and just accumulate all of those materials we need to then go and do that.
And they go and they just keep on fighting different hordes of people, and just to kind of get your practice up with your new set or whatever. Yeah, there's so much stuff for there.
For sure.
Yeah. So did you have any other thoughts before we go into community feedback?
Just that, and I want to keep saying it. I really want to play as Thor. I want the full launch so I can play as Thor, and I'm really curious to see. We didn't really touch on a whole lot, but I'm curious to see how the full skill trees are going to look for each character, because I know, and I'll talk about this later, but a lot of like the coordinated efforts of between two characters, a lot of that seems like it's going to be happening in skills you pick up from like the 3 separate skill trees.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious to see what that's going to look like and how that's going to shake out.
For sure.
But what about you?
I'll go way deeper later as well. But the taste that we were given of gear and skill trees and loot chests and hidden bunkers and all the harm rooms, it was all very well executed. So I was really excited about how much they're trying to do to kind of fill up the world, not just in like places you can go, but like stuff that you can do when you go there. I just think they have a lot of work to do with matchmaking specifically before the game goes live in September. That's my main concern is they got to get that dialed in or it's going to kill this game.
All right. So before we do ours, why don't we get into community feedback? So Devon here, because he's just that nice of a guy, reached out and asked for 2 pieces of feedback. First piece. You having fun over there? You good?
Yes.
Okay. So distracting.
Sorry.
The first piece was what surprised them about the beta, and the second is what they'd like to see changed, when the full version of the game launches. So you want to take the first one?
I would love to. So thanks to everybody who weighed in. There are pretty much 2 different groups that I posted this in. One group followed directions great. The other one didn't follow directions at all, but I was able to pull feedback from both. So the request was, whatever your feedback is, I'm going to use it in the show, and then just leave like your PlayStation name or something like that, and then I'll tag you in it just so people can find you. And so all of the feedback is obviously from that first beta on the PlayStation Network. So all of the names that I read are just going to be PlayStation names. So I'm not going to just specify PSN every time. I had that in an earlier draft, then I'm like, well, they're all PlayStation, so I'm not going to waste my time. So the first one comes from Carlos, AKA Chedi27, and he writes, quotes, I wasn't really expecting very clean combat mechanics from this game, but the beta went the other way. The gameplay was solid, especially that we have different characters. I felt the uniqueness of each hero, and it was actually surprising. The thing I was actually looking forward to for a change is the parry and evasion system, because it's very tricky to make a perfectly timed parry or evasion while facing multiple enemies at once. I actually agree with that. I didn't really parry at all. I was trying to remap my button so I can make parry triangle. So I'm actually on his side with wanting to make that a little bit different. Do you have any thoughts on the parry system?
Yeah, I actively ignored all skills and gear that required me to either evade or parry because I'm terrible at it in this game.
Yeah.
I miss the cue every time for parry. So like I don't get that perfect one that like all your skills require. Yeah. And I try to dodge and evade, but I never seem to do it quick enough. So I gave up.
Okay,
I'm terrible at it, so I took the brute force approach and muscled my way through.
Even with Black Widow, I'm sure she's got a great parry and evade, but I had her mobility down so well that I just didn't even bother. I would rather just move around somebody as opposed to even just worry about fighting and parrying and stuff like that. So there's an entire level of Black Widow that I have not even touched because of how clunky the parry system is, for sure.
That means that I do agree with his comments though about the uniqueness of each hero and how well it's done. That's pretty good.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So all right, next one comes to us from Josh, aka Buckfuddr, which great name. I read that and had a good giggle. That's awesome. Well done.
I pasted it and then I just wanted to type it all out phonetically so you had it all if you needed to read it. So, but yeah, Buckfuddr, I appreciate your patronage.
Great name. Well done. So he writes, and I quote, I love how each character played differently. Learning that Kamala uses the other heroes' moves because she is a fan and idolizes them really sold me on how much passion they're putting into this game. Mm-hmm. I really want the matchmaking to be fixed.
Yeah.
So do we.
Yeah.
But it's the beta, and I'm not too worried about that.
For sure.
I really want the ignorant negative review bombers to go away. Agreed. I don't see it being productive in any way. We need more positive people being loud, so that's what the community will end up being. #assemble.
Firm stance is you should not be able to rate or review a piece of content before it's actually finished and available for you to get. The preview hate is ridiculous. The negative review bombing is ridiculous. And I get that you're all upset about Spider-Man, but holy shit, there's an entire other game full of other characters, and you can't flip out over one. That's ridiculous.
For sure. And like I hated on this game prior to launch, but that was very specifically to you exclusively. Like
that
I was on
very
forums shouting that, to the heavens that this game is terrible. I was just telling you that's going to be garbage anytime you sent me a link.
And most of that wasn't even authentic. You were just more trying to make me hate myself more than I already do. And I totally understand that and respect that. But that wasn't anything to the quality of the game.
No. But also I never noticed that Kamala was using like the other heroes' moves, which I
Yeah.
think is a lot just because like I didn't really play her very much. But if that's the case and she really is, that's awesome.
Mhm.
And it really helps to sell the story of, you know, this young woman who loves the Avengers and is now off on her own little journey to reassemble Earth's mightiest heroes.
Yeah.
Like
Pretty
it
cool.
really, what's that?
It says pretty cool.
Yeah, it really it helps with that. It really adds to that. It gives it a whole nother level. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I agree with the people shitting on this game are doing it just to shit on it simply because they can and they need to chill out.
Hmm.
If you legit don't like it, that's fine. You don't have to love this game. No one has a gun to your head.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, if give some constructive criticism and move the hell on. Don't sit here and just harp on it. No one cares. No one's listening. You know, don't climb on top of your soapbox and just scream at anyone who will listen.
Yeah.
Let other people legitimately have a chance to get in this game experience for themselves before their view on it is so horribly tainted by you constantly screaming that it sucks.
Well, and that's the thing. You go into a movie after being told that the movie sucks, and your expectation is that it will. The
Yeah,
problem with all this negative review bombing is now all these people are getting ready to go into this open beta, and they're expecting to not like it. The cool thing is that this game has a really good chance just by getting your hands on it to change your mind. And
for
so
sure.
that's the quality of the gameplay is what's going to really make or break this game. The matchmaking can also kill this game, but really at the end of the day, every person that logs in expecting to not like this game, depending on what they should play through all the characters to find your favorite. But
I mean, we did.
I would be surprised if not, every person that played the beta couldn't find one character to go like, oh shit, this game is gonna be awesome.
And you know, to go with that, play them all twice. Like I didn't love the Hulk at first, and then he was the only person I played.
Absolutely. I hated Iron Man at first because he was clunky. I pretty much max rezzed Black Widow because I didn't want to even touch Iron Man. But then when I got back into Iron Man, I was like, oh shit, now that I understand the game world and how it works, now I have more context. And now I can't wait to play A-Day again because after how much time I played as Black Widow, I want to play all that to Cap again on the next time and just wreck everybody. Like and I can't wait. So like the game it's even encouraging you to get better as you play it, to play better as other like characters, and that's just a really cool just part of it.
For sure.
Yeah,
All right. Well, to keep this thing rolling, I believe you have the next bit of feedback.
I do. And this next piece comes from Melvin, aka Cali Knight, Knight, Knigget, not Night, like Sleepy Time. He writes,
Good specification.
thank you. Quotes, I was surprised at how fluid the gameplay was, but you can still feel the weight of your character's movement, and not one character felt like the other. Yeah, absolutely. One thing I want to see change is it would be awesome if companions could actually reach tall structures if you get downed up high. If that happens and you have no friends, you're pretty much screwed. And I'll actually go a step further and say that I want you to be able to assign commands to the other AI if you're not playing with somebody else. They should be able to attack an objective. They should be able to like open a chest. They should be able to respond somewhere, hold their positions. There's like we've played a lot of Ghost Recon Wildlands, Ghost Recon Breakpoint. So we're used to using AI that we can command and tell to do stuff. This game is all about team dynamic, but it's not at all. It's a group of individuals who completely work autonomously. You might be in the same area fighting the same big thing, but there's no way to, unless I completely missed it, I don't think that there's any way for you to assign commands to anybody, is there?
Not that I was aware of, no.
Yeah, and so I just think that would make for a better, so we're the Avengers, we're going to assemble, we're going to work together. Yeah, you're Earth's mightiest heroes individually, but still, we're going to work as a unit and just let me give some control over like what I want them to do, because right now I have none.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I actually really hadn't even thought about that, but that'd be pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Be something to add.
Yeah, absolutely. Any thoughts on that, or you want to keep going?
No, not really. I mean, I kind of just agree with what you said.
Cool.
So
keep this rig rolling.
So this next one is a bit of a longy one from Jonathan, or as his PlayStation name is, Vicious Heels, which I like the name. All right, he writes, there were a few things that really surprised me. I was surprised by how likable the gameplay was with Miss Marvel. I was expecting to go in and have her be an annoying character you were forced to play through the story on, and then she ended up being in this guy's top 2.
Nice.
Which is cool.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I love that there is a skill level and ability to target individual mobs needed, and it's not just a button mash to victory playstyle. I love that each character felt like they should and played like they should, and didn't seem like they were more powerful than they needed or should be. Except for Black Widow being able to jump like an NBA player.
She does got ups. That is true.
She does have crazy ups. She does not skip leg day. That is for
That's so
sure.
funny. I didn't read this whole one. And I like that. That makes me happy. Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate you.
And honestly, he has a valid point.
Absolutely. He really does. Don't change it, Crystal Dynamics. Just leave it. But also
Like,
know that we know.
If you haven't yet, go and watch our video of us unlocking the Snowy Tundra mission. You can see I'm playing Hulk, Devon's playing Black Widow. We're both doing like the jump thing to keep going, and she is keeping pace in both speed and size of jump with Hulk, and it's ridiculous.
I make the joke that I wish I could just get on Hulk's back, which I still maintain that I should be able to do. But honestly, I'm still keeping pace with him anyway, so it's fine. And then once I use my grapple hook, I mean, forget about it. I'm essentially Spider Black Widow.
I do think that the Hulk should be able to pick up an ally and chuck them if need be.
I think so as well. Very, very
I
true.
did try to grab you on multiple occasions. I don't know if you saw or not.
I did try to shoot you in the face on multiple occasions. So I agree.
I'm Hulk. I'm bulletproof. So.
Oh, yeah. Maybe we should have that. You should turn on friendly fire for the full version of the game.
Every game we've ever played, specifically referencing Breakpoint and Red Dead Redemption 2, there should not be friendly fire in this game. All we do is kill each other.
I think that's part of it, man. It's part of the team.
Well, I mean, all I have to do is punch you into oblivion. But anyways. Back to Jonathan. It's going to be an intense, coordinated game on harder levels, but still have easier levels for those of us that just want to rage and play as their favorite Marvel tune.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
What I disliked was the obvious matchmaking fail.
Yeah.
And we're going to go into this later, but I don't think we had nearly as many problems as like the vast majority of people seem to have.
I did. Anytime I try to play without you is a fucking nightmare. Like in that first half hour or hour that I tried to play it, it was just a myriad of just matchmaking awful nightmares. I hated it.
Well, then again, I also just turned mine off and played with companions aside from when you and I were playing together, which is, now that I think about it, obviously why I didn't have any of the problems.
And I didn't. I was always woefully optimistic about like, let me just throw on matchmaking and just get a couple people in here. What I found out is I had to turn on matchmaking, get one person, wait 10 seconds, turn off matchmaking, and then start it with two companions. So I could always load in at least one, let the other one fill with AI, and then as we'd play the game, other ones would just jump in. It was very confusing and not at all great.
Yeah, so what he disliked was the obvious matchmaking fail. It's going to need an overhaul before release, or they're going to lose a lot of people that get kicked off for a few hours and then just end up playing by themselves, which is a valid point.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't like that there is very little interaction as of yet between player combat synergies and such. I'm willing to let that one go, though, for the realistic combat, which, yeah. The levels we played, for the most part, seemed shortened. Consisted of a few hallways and an elevator to a room where the boss was, and I'm sure there'll be more imagination in the final product, but it seemed repetitive.
And maybe this is just bullshit, but I keep on reading that the build that we're playing is a much older demo build, and that the finished game is very, very different than what we've got right now. And the only reason that we're on this is because we're sitting on the stress test and they're just testing their servers. So they don't want to do anything more complex because they want their servers dialed in, and then they'll give us the rest of the game, which to me kind of makes sense. Maybe it's bullshit, but maybe it's not,
I don't question that at all. I buy that.
Yeah.
So I see his point with the whole synergy comment, but the one war table we listened to, the only one that I actually listened to because you sent me the link as it was starting. Every other one I always jumped in right as they're ending.
Yeah.
They discussed how characters will play together and different skills that you can coordinate. So I think that the overall lack of character synergy that we're seeing right now is simply because we're in a beta with a very limited skill tree and limited gear set. Like for instance, they even showed in the one war table, Thor has an ability where like he uses a hammer and just kind of flies through and bashes through a bunch of people, but he's also healing allies as he goes.
Oh, so, yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, that's good.
So, and like I always forget she had it and always forgot to use it, but Kamala had one of her abilities healed everyone around her as well.
I didn't play with her near enough, but in the first couple times, you can heal with her, and again, if I played with her more, I'm sure I would have enjoyed that more or whatever.
Yeah. So I do think there and the full game release, you will have a lot more synergy based options where you can kind of coordinate. Where you and I can. I think one of Thor's other abilities is in addition to healing, he also buffs people.
Cool.
So like I can kind of do that with you being Black Widow, and you can punch just a little bit harder.
Kick a little bit
I
faster.
legit think we'll have those synergy options. I just don't think they're in the game yet because we're playing a very watered down beta.
Yeah, for sure. Which is totally fine. Totally fine.
Yeah. And a lot of these just seem to be tied to the 2 skill trees we didn't have access to because there's 3 of them total, and they only gave us 1 in the beta. So I think it'll be there. I think we'll be able to really team coordinate and do all that stuff. I just think you have to wait till the full release to get that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then and for the matchmaking, I didn't have a whole lot of problems because I didn't really mess with it a whole lot. Aside from when you and I played together, and even when we were playing together, it wasn't too bad. I think we had a couple hiccups here and there, but all in all, it wasn't terrible for us. But the vast majority of the everyone was not having a groovy time.
Yeah.
But I do think letting the companion AIs load in is a nice kind of buffer there, and I like that they're marketed as being your characters. So like, I'm playing as Hulk, but in the Kamala, Iron Man, and Black Widow that loaded in are the characters I have built with the gear set, the skill sets that I have unlocked.
That is a nice touch, for sure.
So that's cool. Like they play exactly as you will play. So it's essentially you're playing with 3 versions of yourself, which I mean, I'm here for it. I think that was a smart move.
And especially since there was such the requirement that you needed to play, you needed online to play it, but then we're still going to let you play by yourself if you just really don't want to play with anybody else. Like that is key. Like I get that the updates and the network and like whatever the fuck else that they have to be online for, I get all that stuff, but you still need to let people play by themselves if they want to. Sometimes people can't sync up their calendars, or sometimes people just want to just play by themselves for a little bit.
Or some people have just good enough internet to
be
connected and download the updates, but not good enough to actually be able to sustain an online game session. So at least now they're not being screwed over.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep on moving. You got the next one.
All right, so this next one is from Patrick, who did not leave his PlayStation name. He simply said that he'd like to see a mini map, which is really why I dropped this in, because I thought that was pretty straightforward, and I saw that a lot. Now, to me, you tap up on the D-pad, and it gives like a little waypoint that you can follow and stuff. And that was helpful for us because sometimes we were trying to like build a direction off of the main objective. So I don't think I needed a mini map really, because I thought the guiding point was good enough. I would like to see a map overall though, just to see what the fuck I'm up against. And like, it's the Avengers. You're telling me they don't have schematics or blueprints or like readings of like what the terrain is like that. That doesn't even make sense for the team that we're playing as.
Yeah. There wasn't. I'm not an idiot, right? Like there legit was not a map.
I don't believe so.
Because for some reason I could have sworn, and I might just be making this up.
Short of the war table, I don't recall any map whatsoever. Like you look at the war table, you zoom into a region, but short of that, there's not like an in-game map that I'm aware of. You press the pause button, it brings up your menu. Your menu only has the option to change your gear, change your skills, look at your hero cards, go to the marketplace, shit like that. I don't recall, and if I'm wrong, please comment below or something like that. I don't recall seeing a map. I would have used it, I thought.
For some reason, I could have sworn in like one of there's 3 story missions total. There's 8A, and then there's the 2 that follow up.
Yeah.
The last one, where it's you and Kamala and it's snowy bullshit. For some reason, I could have sworn there was a map there, but I could 100% be making this up.
It's possible, and maybe that was specific to the story. Maybe they are specific to the story. Like I just don't understand why you wouldn't put maps into the entirety of the game.
Like I can't remember if it was like a long touchpad press pulled the map up or what. Either way, I think that the in-game navigation with like this quick up on the D-pad to do that thing, I think all of that was sufficient enough that you didn't. I personally didn't need a map. I didn't. Really.
Right. I could have used it just to better explore different areas that maybe I didn't know existed or whatever, just to have a better range of like the boundaries of the game. But I didn't need one for navigation because the game did such a good job of guiding you. And maybe you can make the argument that it's a little too heavy-handed, especially after like Ghost of Tsushima is so widely known for the way that they build their guidance into the game with like you just follow the wind and it kind of takes you to where you're going and stuff.
Certain wildlife leads you to certain
But we didn't need this game to have that. We just need a little bit more, a map would be nice if there is one. I just need to know where it is better. And maybe that's a fault of the game to not do a better job of training me on like where all their stuff is, Patrick also finishes up. He writes, he was also surprised at how deep the combo system was. Reminded him a little bit of DMC, Devil May Cry, and he does feel the Hulk needs some type of block. His gamma thing felt useless. So, any thoughts on that?
By Hulk's gamma thing, I assume he means that like the rage thing where you hold in R2.
Yes.
You know, I disagree that it was useless. There's a section of the skill tree, so like when you're using that, you either take less or no damage, and you start getting health back as you beat the piss out of everyone. One of the skills was to increase the health you got back by 100%. So like I would use and there's other ones to like make it last longer and for you to consume less of it while you're using it. I had all of that maxed out.
Oh, okay, cool.
So I would go in and hold that in and just constantly be in rage and constantly getting health back while just destroying everyone around me. It's like I disagree that it felt useless. I just don't think you put enough time into the getting
Well, and
that
that's
part
fair
of the
because
skill tree up.
my Hulk build is garbage. You know, I have this cool skin for it, but like I don't have anything cool at all set up for him. I'm sure I own gear that's probably cool for him, but I haven't spec'd it out because I don't care about him.
Yeah.
Black Widow, a completely different story. Iron Man, completely different story. I just haven't really messed with Kamala at all, really, as far as gear or like Hulk. So there might be a different version that you just have. If you want to play as Hulk, you might just have to build a different, version that's more suited to like what you want. So like Bryar,
Yeah.
I mean, you just said you have a very dope model that's very responsive to what your play style is. If you can dial in your character, I mean, you'll have more fun playing it. So
Yeah, I
cool.
have my Hulk spec'd out to just brute force any issue, and like I said, I have it built up so my health regen is ridiculous, and my damage output is stupid, and it's just I punch things
Real hard.
I show up and I punch things real hard,
and then I take naps
and maybe get a snack.
Yeah, maybe a little
Snacks are
package.
good.
All right, sir. You want to go ahead and take the last piece of community feedback?
Yeah. So this one comes from a gentleman by the name of James, who also did not leave his PlayStation name.
Again, Group A, great followers of directions. Group B, not so much.
Hey, maybe Group B didn't want to be found.
Clearly.
So he writes, the thing that surprised me was the way that Black Widow grappling hook is not just for swinging, it also grapples Black Widow toward bad guys to do combos. The thing that I want to see improved is the matchmaking. Again,
Of course.
Every time I tried to matchmake, I get kicked out, and when I tried adding PlayStation friends, it says put matchmaking in the same mode to enabled.
Yeah.
Even though it already is enabled.
And there was a lot of me having to get back to the holo table and then go back and launch it again just so I could bring you in. So yeah, I agree. But again, it was a beta. They know that they got to fix all that stuff.
And honestly, I'll 100% overlook all the matchmaking issues if over like there's 2 more betas. There's this one this weekend and like another weekend and then game launch. If each beta weekend the matchmaking improves, then I can 100% look over this. It's the first stress test on the servers. I get it. I did not honestly, I expected the servers to constantly crash. I expected the game to constantly crash, and the fact that we were able to play it all amazed me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So like as long as they're constantly improving over these next few weeks and making that better, and so by the time we get to the full launch it's dialed in, like I can overlook all the garbage issues at the beginning.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the thing, like we all got to just be honest with the fact that like every game launch that's solely online is going to be rough. That is just the nature of that.
Every single one.
I have yet to see a completely seamless launch, because even the ones that are going well, they're like, shit, we got to do maintenance on something and then get something back up. Like it is normal.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to give them a little bit of grace there and just be like, all right, man, like I love what you're doing. I love where you're going. I know how hard it's going to be to pull this off, but like, dude, when we do, it's going to be fantastic.
And like yeah. So in addition to that too, you got to quit being so critical when things go wrong.
Yeah.
Things will go wrong. There will never be a game that is a perfect launch. The servers just work perfectly. That's never going to happen. Simply because like, for whatever rhyme or reason, a lot of these companies too don't anticipate. They anticipate large numbers. They don't, but like the turnout on launch day is always so much higher than what they anticipated that the servers go down.
And imagine if you're trying to build your servers to suit the community reaction. So you're seeing all these people saying like, well, I'm not getting this game. This game's gonna be bullshit. I don't even care about that. So you're like, well, I guess we don't have to flip on this Microsoft half, because clearly they're not gonna play the game because they're upset about Spider-Man. And then those people jump on anyway because they're full of shit. And of course we're all gonna play this game regardless of what you say on the internet. And then they're like, well, fuck. okay, so now we didn't have anywhere near the amount of servers that we should have had to pull this off.
Which is another reason why, people need to quit being so
toxic all the time.
Yeah. You're part of the problem.
Be part of the solution, man. Come on.
All right, but anyway, so back to James and his comments. I can't really comment on like the Black Widow grappling hook because I barely even used it in the story mission. It was mainly just the
you'll get to now. Yeah, I'll let you play as her a little bit.
I don't know. I have so much fun as Hulk though. Yeah, it's like I barely played as Widow, so I can't really say anything about the grappling hook as far as like its use. But it makes sense if you can grapple and move with it. It makes sense to be able to pull you to enemies and vice versa. So I mean, I'm not shocked or surprised that it's part of the mechanic. But I am glad it's there.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, like for the most part, we had our issues, but for the most part, we got really lucky. It seems with matchmaking, just at least when we were playing together.
And once we figured it out, we were fine.
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, as long as over the next couple weekends during the betas, it keeps improving, I can overlook all the issues they had at the beginning because at least that shows me too that they're actively trying to make it better.
Yeah, for sure.
So
cool.
Fingers crossed.
All right. Well, thanks again to everybody for the community feedback. If you want to write into the show, you can hit us up on Twitter at RetconAir, or you can go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/RetconAir, and find us there. And then, come to our pages and just bug us, I guess, or talk about Avengers or whatever you want, I guess. That's fine. But enough about them, Bryar. What about us? What surprised you about the game? And then what would you want to see change before it launches in early September?
I was surprised that the servers weren't constantly crashing, like going down, crashing.
Yeah, it's good.
I was surprised that the game itself didn't constantly crash due to unforeseen bugs and issues. And I was surprised at how, like, 95% of the time, the combat was really fluid and worked really well. I mean, yeah, you have those hiccups, but those could be expected. Again, there's no such thing as a perfect launch. But yeah, I was just honestly just surprised at how great this turned out to be, considering how low of expectations I had for it.
Yeah, for sure. And how mean you were about it the whole time.
Just to spite you. But yeah, I mean, especially when you consider this is just a beta, and it's still what little bit we got was so good.
Oh yeah.
And I had so much fun playing it. Like, I think this is the most fun I've had in a beta in a very long time.
100%, for sure.
So overall, just how good it ended up being and how well it worked, hiccups aside, kind of surprised me.
Cool.
And then what I'm hoping for moving forward in the full launch is that all the interchangeable gear pieces, like each character gets 4 pieces that you're constantly changing out for, like melee, range, defense, etc. I want those to be cosmetic. There's actually like a few articles floating around right now that people are claiming that the fact that they're invisible will hurt Avengers in the long run. I could see it going either way. I really don't. Personally, I don't think it's really going to hurt it. Not enough to matter anyways, but I would like to see those be cosmetic, at least to like a certain degree, like just even a little bit.
That should be a toggle. Like you've spent the time creating it. You bring it up in the gear and it looks different than the other pieces of gear. Why not just, map that to the different field and then just make it work? Like, I don't understand. And then for the people that want it to be pure, you just flip that off and then, nothing but the power applies. And then for the people that want to see what you're doing, you flip it on. And then as you get new gear, your gear looks different. Like, I don't see why that was such a big deal.
I'm going to laugh if that is in there already and just everyone missed it.
That would be amazing. Because, like, in the beta, you couldn't remap buttons even though I was trying. It'd be great if that was a feature that just wasn't flipped on yet. And they're like, you know what? We were going to say something, but we just wanted you all to look like assholes. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, for sure. But, I mean, to go along with that point, this loot system is very reminiscent of Destiny.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty identical as far as like the grab loot, interchangeable pieces, etc.
Yeah.
And in Destiny, those pieces are cosmetic as well as functional. They changed how your player looks.
Yep.
So I would like to see it here. I mean, like, I know with Avengers you have quite a few skins of like that character, from like different periods of time throughout all of Marvel. Like, one of the Hulk skins is Joe Fixit, or it's the Gray Hulk, which is like the first one, because back in the day they couldn't, if I remember correctly, it's like they couldn't print in green, so they turned it to gray.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So like that's awesome. You have all these different throwback characters, skins, and everything. I'm all here for it. But then to add that little bit of cosmetic interchangeable gear pieces, that way, like you and I think have the same Hulk skin, but now my Hulk looks just a little different from yours.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it'd be a cool thing to put in
Oh,
there.
yeah, that's a good. So, do you think they should run multiple Avengers on the same team at the same time?
No,
Like Team Hulks, Team Caps, Team Widows.
If they do, I think that should be like a special game.
Okay,
mode.
yeah, okay, yeah.
Because otherwise, having different characters really makes it kind of like almost forcing your hand on that whole synergy aspect.
And there's
like
some shit you can't do without Hulk. There are rooms that you can't access without him. So maybe that would be a good point as well. Like there's a room where if you're not there to break the door open as Widow, I can't get through it.
Yeah. Which I think there's a couple characters that have that heavy slam attack. So I don't necessarily know that it's tied to Hulk specifically, but certain characters are needed for certain things. So I don't think that. I also think like, okay, so let's say it's a team of just 4 Hulks. They're all spec'd out like I have mine, where it's just brute force, just unstoppable tank. That whatever we're doing is not fun now, because now there's no challenge. We are steamrolling everything. I mean, if that's what you're going for, just to quickly farm stuff, whatever, but you're only farming stuff for Hulk, who's already spec'd out, so it kind of defeats the purpose there. Yeah. And also, it's just I think it should be 4 separate characters to really add to the challenge a little bit.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, I would not be against a special game mode where it's everyone's playing, good old all for one, where it's everyone's
jump
playing
into a
one
H.A.R.M
character.
room. Why can't we go all Iron Man in the H.A.R.M room or whatever else?
And we're all back to back shooting lasers.
It's all simulations anyway, so like, why not?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, in that scenario, I'd be here for it. But in actual just regular gameplay, no.
Yeah, and so with the H.A.R.M room, I think it's the sky's the limit with that thing. We have one room, and it looks exactly the same. How much more could they make with all kinds of shit? So I'd be interested to see. That'd be cool. I'm all about like dojo training tutorial things, like stuff like that. I just love for some reason.
So we talked about me, what I want, what surprised me, what I want in the full launch. So what about you? What surprised you? What do you want in full launch? What you want? Girl, what you want, what you need.
I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want.
Tell me what you want, what you really, really want.
I want a hat.
All right, we're going to stop right there. We're not doing this.
So the thing that I was surprised by the most was how much I couldn't stop thinking about the game. Like as a gamer, I think we all do our fair amount of obsessing over like different things, depending on like what strikes us or whatever else. But like once the beta closed, like I honestly didn't want to play anything else. Like I tried to fire up Rocket League one day, like I tried Overwatch, and I just wasn't interested in like spending time doing it. Like, yeah, I had like millions of projects that I should have been doing anyway, but I just had a general disinterest in playing other stuff because I wanted to invest in this new exciting world that I just played in. And like, it was like part of it of like, here's just a little bit, but then we got to take it away from you and you can't play it until next weekend. Like, I wish they would have just left the betas open until now. And then like the next wave joins us. And then after that, we go.
Full disclosure, I did Monday evening fire up the beta, knew it wasn't going to, but I was hoping the servers were maybe just left on and they didn't say anything.
Yeah, that would have been great. Why not?
The game started, like the game loaded up to the title screen. I was getting excited. I hit the button to start and it's like going through the process, like it's getting ready to load in the last second, server's down. It's like, oh.
But yeah, for me and for a lot of people I talked to, they just kept saying the same thing. Like they just can't get the game out of their head. They would just rather play that than anything. And to me, that's how this game is going to succeed, regardless of the press on Spider-Man, regardless of the initial knee-jerk reactions to how they were all going to look like. The way that this game wins is the fact that it's a fun game. And at the end of the day, if you can have fun playing the game's going to be great. And you add the fact that it's fun on top of the fact that there's a rabid, Marvel fan base, then the people that are whining about Spider-Man honestly don't matter as much because you're talking about just, droplets of complaints over oceans of fans. And I think that they'll be fine there. So,
and honestly, like I love Spider-Man. I love Spider-Man. Miles Morales is my favorite Spider-Man. Talked about that a lot. But that alone would not getting to play him would not be enough to make me not buy the game. So I have a hard time understanding people like, well, if I don't on Xbox, like if I don't get Spider-Man, I'm not playing this. Like,
And that's
why?
such a missed opportunity. Like, because I have it in here. Like, I couldn't stop thinking about how much fun I had watching you get excited about jumping into the Hulkbuster armor as the Incredible Hulk. Like,
Which was amazing.
that is a very specific gaming moment that I'll have for a really long time. And some people are just going to not experience that kind of stuff because it doesn't have a specific character in it. You have no claim to the game. What do you give a shit? Like, yeah, it would be great if Spider-Man was in there, but even if he's not, it's still a really fun game to play. And I just don't understand completely writing it off because of one character that you wouldn't have gotten anyway because you already don't have two other versions of Spider-Man. So, like, calm down. Or maybe they're like, this is the one time we could have got Spider-Man. Like, why? But I'm telling you that you're shortchanging yourself if you don't, because there's so much fun to be had in this game.
And also, if anyone out there wants, we did record me as Hulk getting into the Hulkbuster armor. It is out there on, I believe, our Facebook page. Go watch it. It's great.
It is.
Or don't. Whatever.
It's honestly the number one video I've been sharing around because people don't know that they could do it. And the second they realize, wait, anybody can do it. Wait, is that the Hulk? Like, there's that progression. And it's just so much fun to watch in real time. Like, there's so much shit like that where, like, Crystal Dynamics is like a development team where, like, fucking, if we're going to be like, what would it be like to be the Avengers with our friends? This is the kind of stuff that we would probably do. And, like, those are great strides that I think the company should be taking. And I'm really excited about it,
Absolutely.
So that's for what surprised me, just the fact that I couldn't stop thinking about it because of how much fun it was to play as literally everybody and then all the potential that it had. What I want to see in the full version is I'm really hoping they just give me the entire roster of, like, all the characters in any game mode that I want. I don't care if it's a story mission that's specific to Thor. I don't care if it's specific to Kamala. I want to take in the characters that I want. I want to, give me Daredevil, give me Captain, give me whoever I want in that game mode. Because I think there's this stupid precedence where people are being weird about, like, New Game Plus, like Jedi Fallen Order was a really good example where, we can't have, like, the powers progress because it's tied to the story. I've beat the game. I know the story. So I don't care anymore because now I'm replaying it because I want to play it differently. You've already told me your story. We've achieved that. You've already got my money. Now, if I'm playing your story again, you've got to give me variation, and that comes down to different playthrough types. And for some reason, the Respawn team at Jedi Fallen Order, when they put that together, they just didn't care about that. And that was, to me, a very big misstep. You couldn't teleport to the different Jedi meditation points, and you couldn't take all your powers back to New Game Plus. Those are two big misses for me.
Like, I understand their thought process of, like, it's part of the story, it's part of the journey. Like, I 100% get where you're coming from. I understand that, but I'm not playing through a second time to get the story. I did that the first one. I'm playing through the second time so I can be OP as fuck and just wreck shop. That's what I want. Give me all my powers. Give me my fancy lightsaber.
And so
get out my face.
My theory for where Captain America is that after, what happens in A-Day, he is trapped or hidden or frozen somewhere, and a big part of, the mission is finding him and breaking him out and bringing him back. And I'm sure most people think that too. Now, what happens after I unlock him is I want him everywhere. No matter where I was before, even if it's like the first initial missions, like, I want to play as Captain America. I don't give a shit what the context is. Give me access to the entire roster so I can play how I want to. That's what I want. And I'm going to be very, very frustrated if I keep on finding out that they're just like, nope, he's not in this part of the game. Nope, you can only play him over here. Like, that just feels really sloppy to me. And, like, lazy. Just let me have them. Like, why? Like, what benefit of it is to protect a story that I already know? So I can't play it as a different character to still experience the story. And yeah, it'll be funnier maybe out of context because now I've got Hulk talking to Kamala, who looks just like Steve Rogers. Like, I don't know. I don't care. I just want to play as him,
Well, they even had various character voice lines in missions. Like, there were multiple Thor and Hank Pym voice lines.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot all about the anthill shit. There's so much to this game that I keep forgetting about. It's awesome.
Yeah, it was a beta, and it was pretty. The field of things we had to do was pretty narrow, but even in that, there was so much going on.
And I'm a grinder. Let me grind through all my characters. I want to grind through all the way Black Widow, and then I want to get Captain, grind through all the way with him, and then I want to switch to somebody else and go through all the way with him. So like I don't want to be locked to specific areas because the story means that I got to do something else. After I start beating shit, I want to be able to take him anywhere. Like that's the big thing that I want to see changed.
For sure, man.
For sure.
For sure.
Well, sir, it is very late or very early, depending on what time you think it is. Just guys at home, it's 1:10 a.m. That's how hard we're working.
Very late start and had a lot of technical difficulties getting this one going.
But we soldiered on because we go hard for the things that we're passionate about. But yeah, so it's late. Before we shut it down, any other thoughts about the beta, your reaction, expectations or responses or anything like that?
No, not really. I think we pretty well covered it. I'm so incredibly surprised by how well this game did, how great it was considering it was just a beta, how much stuff they packed into it. I can't wait to play as Thor. I did forget to touch on it earlier, but we've talked about it, but the one of the lead guys on the axe combat from God of War,
that's right, yep,
was brought over into this to help do the hammer combat for Thor, and it plays so similarly. It's great. I love it so much.
And like to me, it doesn't feel like it ripped it off. It feels like, oh, this is how this should feel.
100%, because it makes all the sense of the word for it to work like that.
Yeah.
And it works, and I'm here for it, and I love it, and I can't wait to play as Thor and sling hammers and lightning.
While we're closing, I'm going to fire up my PlayStation and see if the beta's turned on, since it's 1:12 in the morning now.
Just don't, because you're going to play it, and we both need to go to bed.
I'm already so tired, it's ridiculous, because I had to wake up so ungodly early to do what I had to do today.
Yeah, listen, just go ahead and turn that back off.
Well, this is, it's fine. It's fine. Ignore that. Ignore all the lights that are coming from over here. So let's put this baby and ourselves to bed, Bryar. Thank you for hanging out with me so late. Thank you for soldiering through all the technical issues. Folks at home, I hope that you enjoyed this preview of Marvel's Avengers. If you're listening to this on the day that it's out, it's the 15th, which means if you have a PlayStation, you should download this shit right now and play it for yourself, because no matter what I say about it, no matter what Bryar says about it, no matter what anybody says about it, until you actually put your hands on it and run through A-Day, you're going to have no context to what we're talking about. I promise you it'll be worth your time.
Do it.
You're welcome to check us out on Twitter via @RetconAir, or you can check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/RetconAir. That's where we do most of our communication. We throw a lot of stuff out there. We're also on Spotify, iTunes, Podchaser, Stitcher, iHeartMedia, pretty much anywhere that you can listen to a podcast, we're there. If you want to watch videos, which we've been ramping up a lot of videos just because of Avengers, really, on YouTube, we have a bunch of different playlists of different like gameplays, let's plays, or like our full episodes with just imagery and like episode art and stuff like that. So full episodes go live on the 1st and the 15th of every month. This new series that we're about to start called Retcon Reads, I just got to finish the first episode, and Shelby, she's covering the book Dune, and it is fantastic. So I'm really excited about all the shit that we're doing with like the Let's Plays. She's
really excited about it.
With the Retcon Reads, and then with these previews, and then everything else. So like we're constantly trying to figure out new stuff to work on, and we always love working on these projects. So even though it's after 1 a.m. and we're just testing to see what the betas are doing right now and whether or not the servers are on, we do it because we really care about the products that we make and the fact that you guys are it's bullshit. The servers are off. So anyway. So we're looking forward to spending the weekend when the servers turn on around 10 o'clock probably, talking more about this game. So hopefully you like this preview. We look forward to hearing from you. Bryar, do you want to give me your PSN name just in case somebody wants to rage with you, or is that too aggressive?
No, I'll share it. It's technically it's Shelby's because I just hijacked her PlayStation because the PlayStation's hers, the Xbox mine. But that's PlayStation gamer name tag thing, whatever PlayStation calls it, is Rogue Panda Cat 25, if I remember correctly.
Cool. And then mine is designated Devon. So if you're doing anything this weekend, you have a PlayStation, you want to rage with us, I'm probably going to be Black Widow unless Bryar wants to, and then I'll let him play as her. Additionally, I really hope that this weekend they let us unlock more characters. Like they give us Captain America and they give us Thor. How sweet would that be if they just let us have it in this beta?
I doubt they'll do it this beta, because this is the first one that like Xbox and everyone else gets it right. Yeah. So they probably want this one. but maybe next one, maybe next beta.
Honestly, that would make sense. This is just version 2. There are no updates for the game. The beta is already updated, so I'm ready to go. The servers are off, but I'm ready to go. But that would make more sense for everybody to get the same introduction to it, and then when it goes fully open, then maybe introduce 1 or 2 more characters. Probably not, but we'll see. It would be great.
I just want to be the God of Thunder.
That's what we all want.
God of Thunder.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening to the show. We appreciate all your feedback and supports. Thanks again for all the people that wrote in their feedback about the beta and what they expect to see. And we'll catch you next time on Retcon Air.
Bye.